Hello, my name is Lydia Jordan. I'm the CEO and founder of Lycon Cosmetics. I was born in former Yugoslavia. My father was a cosmetic chemist. He had a beauty salon. He was a beauty therapist. He did a lot of acne treatments and electrolysis. And I used to love to be around him when he was in his laboratory doing the experiments, and he had some machines going, and it was so much fun. In 1963, my parents and I went to France on a holiday. And 3 days after we left Skopje, which is in Macedonia, there was a very, very catastrophic, terrible earthquake, and most of the city was demolished. There was nothing to go back to, and we decided to migrate to Australia. I had some family in Australia. They sponsored us, and we came out in Australia in 1964. I arrived in Australia on a sunny winter's day and got ready to go to school basically 2 days after I arrived. I couldn't speak any English, and it was all very different to me. It was an all-girls school. We had to wear a uniform, which wasn't how we dressed for school back in former Yugoslavia. And I didn't realize that I was actually hairy until 3 months later, when it was swimming day and the girls were talking about shaving, and I was totally mortified. I was embarrassed because I was rather hairy. Where I come from, women didn't remove hair from their body in those days, and I thought, oh my goodness. Well, next day I was going not to be hairy as well. So in secret, I actually used my father's razor, so I ended up with rather prickly legs. And I thought, why does anyone want to do this when you have such prickly hairy legs? When you go to bed with the sheets there, it's catching and it's very uncomfortable. Now, a few years later, I was doing my final year of school. I was 18, and I was reading the American magazine 17, and they were talking about different types of hair removal. I knew all about those, but the fifth one they talked about was waxing. And that was extremely interesting to me, because waxing was supposed to produce regrowth that wasn't prickly, that lasted much longer. And I came across one particular book that had a formula for a depilatory wax. So I found this formula, and the only ingredient that my father didn't have was pine resin. So I rang a couple of companies, and one of them actually sold pine resin. So I got a sample, and I used that exact formula from that book that I found, and I made up my own wax. Then I waxed my legs regularly every 4 to 6 weeks, and I've never looked back. It was so easy, not painful, and there was absolutely no problem at all. In those days, I really never imagined that I would create a business around wax. And 10 years later, when I was already married and had 2 children, I became a beauty therapist, and I got a position with a beauty salon in Brisbane where I did a lot more waxing. I still didn't think that I was going to make a business out of this wax that I was using on myself for the past 10 years. So in 1978, I opened up my own salon, which was at home, and I started to make the wax in slightly bigger quantities on the kitchen stove to use on my clients. Now, the industry in those days was very young. There were not many salons in Brisbane, but I discovered that there was a much bigger industry in Sydney, and they had a lot of conferences where beauty therapists could go to learn about all kinds of things to improve our knowledge and gain a lot more experience, so that we knew better what to do with our clients. And I discovered that people were bringing different products that they were making as well to show to the industry. And next time I went along, I took my wax in a very ordinary pot. There wasn't much around in 1978. You couldn't get special wax heaters, so I used a chips fryer. And before I knew it, I had inquiries from all over Australia, salons who wanted to buy my wax, and I also got inquiries from New Zealand, New Caledonia, because those people came to the Sydney conferences as well. With all the inquiries that came from New Zealand, New Caledonia, and all over Australia, I felt that Lydia's wax was not quite the right brand. So that's when I decided that I had to create a new brand to encompass everything, and that's how Lycon Cosmetics was formed. After 10 years, it got far too much working from home. We needed bigger premises, and I moved to an area in Brisbane that's called West End. And that over time grew to a much bigger place than initially. It grew to 3,500 square meters. So I was there for 30 years, and then it was definitely too small. I had to get some premises around the corner and a little truck to just kind of move all the pallets of wax and all the skincare products to a dispatch area around the corner. We were really struggling for room, and fortunately the most wonderful property came up in Brisbane in an area called Pinkenba, and we now have 7,500 square meters. The production, all the R&D is done here, right here. We have an in-house chemist. We work very closely together. We do all the testing at work. These days there's about 30 different waxes. People have different preferences. Some of them are similar, some of them are different, and we just love what we're doing. We're just like a big family, and in addition, all the agents all over the world, they're really an extension of my family. And we have a great time when we see each other, and I love meeting all the people that I meet when I'm training, and I travel a lot all over the world to do promotions, attend trade shows with our agents in all the countries that I can possibly get to, and the market is still growing for us. There's new countries coming on board every year. I look forward to meeting you. I look forward to spending time waxing together, doing skincare things together, spreading the Lycon love, and to enjoy all things Lycon.